Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm really glad you're here today because this is one of those stories that can spark debate almost instantly. Whether you admire him, disagree with him, or just find him impossible to ignore, today we're diving into the life and career of Piers Morgan, a man who has built an entire career around speaking his mind, no matter the consequences. Now, let me ask you something right from the start. Do you think being outspoken is a strength or a risk? Because for Piers Morgan, it's been both. He was born in England in 1965 and developed an early interest in journalism. Unlike many people who stumble into their careers, he seemed to know early on what he wanted: to tell stories, break news, and be at the center of conversations. He worked his way up through the newspaper industry, eventually landing a role at major tabloids. And then something pretty remarkable happened. At just 29 years old, he became the editor of a national newspaper. That's incredibly young for that level of responsibility. Now think about that for a second. If you were given that kind of power so early in your career, would you play it safe or push boundaries to prove yourself? Because Morgan clearly chose to push boundaries. He became known for bold headlines, aggressive reporting, and a style that grabbed attention. But with that came criticism. Some people praised his fearlessness, while others questioned the ethics behind certain stories. And this brings up an important question: where should the line be drawn between getting attention and being responsible? Because in media, that line isn't always clear. His career took a major turn when he became editor of another major newspaper, continuing his controversial style. But things didn't go smoothly forever. In 2004, he was fired after publishing photos that turned out to be fake, a moment that could have ended his career completely. Now, imagine being at the top and then suddenly losing everything. What would you do next? Would you step away or try to reinvent yourself? Because this is where Piers Morgan's story takes a very interesting turn. Instead of disappearing, he moved into television. And honestly, this is where his personality really found its platform. He became a judge on talent shows like America's Got Talent and Britain's Got Talent, where his blunt, no-filter style quickly made him stand out. People didn't just watch for the contestants, they watched for his reactions. And here's something to think about. Why do audiences often gravitate toward people who say exactly what they're thinking, even if it's controversial? Maybe it feels more real. Or maybe it just keeps things unpredictable. From there, he moved into more serious broadcasting, hosting his own show and interviewing major figures, from celebrities to politicians. His interviews were direct, sometimes uncomfortable, but always engaging. Now imagine sitting across from someone like that. Would you feel challenged or exposed? Because Morgan had a way of asking the questions others avoided. But once again, controversy followed. He later became a co-host on a major morning show, where his opinions reached millions of viewers daily. And this is where things really intensified. His comments on sensitive topics often sparked backlash, debates, and even public complaints. And then came one of the biggest moments of his career. After making controversial remarks about a high-profile interview involving Meghan Markle, the backlash was massive. He eventually walked off the show during a live broadcast and later left the program altogether. Now pause for a second. Do you think that moment was about standing firm in his beliefs or refusing to adapt? Because depending on how you see it, it could be either. And that's what makes his story so complex. Some people see him as someone who refuses to be silenced, a voice of honesty in a world of filters. Others see him as someone who thrives on controversy to stay relevant. So, here's a question for you. Is it better to be liked or to be heard? Because in today's media world, those two things don't always go together. Even after leaving traditional television, Morgan didn't step away from the spotlight. He launched his own show, Piers Morgan Uncensored, where he continues to have bold conversations and heated debates. And interestingly, he's still making headlines, sometimes for what he says, and sometimes for how he reacts in the moment. Which brings us to a deeper thought. Is controversy something that follows him, or something he intentionally creates? Because after so many years in the public eye, it's hard to believe it's accidental. But at the same time, you can't ignore his impact. He's interviewed powerful figures, shaped conversations, and stayed relevant in an industry where many people fade away quickly. And maybe that's the real takeaway from his story. Staying relevant isn't always about playing it safe. Sometimes it's about taking risks, even if those risks come with criticism. But of course, there's a trade-off. Constant scrutiny, public backlash, and a reputation that can be polarizing. So, as you think about the journey of Piers Morgan, ask yourself this. Would you rather be respected quietly or talked about constantly? Because his career shows that those two paths can lead to very different outcomes. At the end of the day, whether you agree with him or not, one thing is clear. He's mastered the art of staying in the conversation. And maybe that's why he's lasted this long. Not because everyone agrees with him, but because no one can ignore him. Thanks so much for watching and spending this time with me. If you enjoyed this deep dive and want more stories like this, don't forget to like the video, share it with someone who loves real conversations, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. I'll see you in the next one.